All right, hey, welcome into our live stream today. We're going to jump into, I think, some of the cool things that we do here on the show, and that is to dive into the gaming sector a little bit deeper. We're going to introduce 5 different projects that we think are on the move, and both in the short term, but also I want you to take a look at long term. Additionally, we'll show you some of the performance of some of the gaming sector itself, and then lastly, we'll break down some of the guilds that are actually, and we've talked about these before on the show, showing some signs of movement as well, because guilds will be a big part of how the gaming sector grows. If you guys don't understand guilds, first thing I would say is jump into one of our other videos on guilds and learn more about that. My name is Paul Barrow, and welcome back to TechPath. Let's get into it today because the topic has been gaming pretty much all month. We've seen Metaverse movement, massive shifts in where the market has been moving as well. I want to take a look quickly over to CoinMarketCap just to give you guys an idea and a scope of just how big this market category is. So this is top gaming tokens by market capitalization, trading currently at a market cap of 35 billion, which is still up almost 4% in what has been a sideways action, and the trading volume at a 6% increase right now at around 4 billion. When you look at the games in here, I mean, these are the wonderland of game companies, Metaverse, Decentraland leading the space in terms of market cap at almost 6 billion. Axie Infinity coming in, Sandbox, Gala, which we've talked to and had on the show here, Engine, Bora, WaxP, Ultra, which we just had the Ultra guys on the show here as well. My Neighbor Alice, another one that we've been watching for quite some time, Chromie, etc. And then rounding out some of the lower ones that we've been reporting on, which is Illuvium, UFO Gaming, Mobox, Vulcan Forged, we've looked at. I mean, this is like really a hit list of a lot of the videos that we've been producing here on the show. So I would first say to you, if you are new to gaming and Metaverse when it comes to crypto and or investing, because these in most cases are either play to earn or they're NFT asset-based games like a Big Time. Check out our videos on these different projects, including our video on Big Time, because Big Time's video talks a little bit more about the ecosystem of NFT assets to own, because there's no token metric element behind it, and there's no token that you can go out and buy. So that's another model of how these games are going to be working. So just be on the lookout for that. I would like to warn you guys, one thing that I've noticed on the comments, and we've talked about here in the studio, is that when we put up thumbs, a lot of time, we want to put these big graphical thumbs and, show you guys really what the video is about, but don't just start buying tokens based on what we put up on our thumbs. You have to do your due diligence. You have to dive into these projects, go deep on them. You can't just buy on these little moves of sentiment and a little bit of activity that is happening on a project. You've got to look a little bit deeper. I understand that maybe you're doing some day trading, or maybe you're doing some swing trading, meaning you trade now and then sell it in a couple days. That's fine and dandy, no problem with that. We just want to make sure you guys are watching what you're doing. Be safe. Always do your due diligence on research. So that's the number one warning for today. I want to jump into a list of projects that we are doing or looking at right now. And one of them, and I'm going to show you a chart real quickly, just to show you some sentiment data on these 5 projects right here. So we've got PlaceWar, which you guys know we've been reporting on PlaceWar for, I don't know, maybe a month or so, a little longer maybe. We've had Myrtle, their CEO, on our show. PlaceWar has continued to do some very interesting things, which is continuing to drive them up in the charts on overall sentiment. Now, granted, they're a 7682. On overall sentiment, their amplification score still scoring very highly at a 7591. This, now, just so there's framework here, we've done charts on these other game companies, and there's, a project like Star Atlas, a project like Red Fox Labs, a project like Gala. All of those kinds of projects right now would be scoring higher than all of these on this 5 list. So just so you know, this isn't the best 5 that's out there. These are projects that you should be looking at and maybe wanting to look at for potential if you're really into the gaming sector. The other project that I want to look at is a project called Realy, and that is another one that we've continued to track here, another Metaverse play, and I'll show you some more data on Realy here in a second. 75.28, 74.08 on the amplification. Again, amplification and sentiment scoring very closely to each other. MonkeyBall, everybody knows, we've talked about them in the past. This one actually got very soft quickly, and what I mean very soft, meaning amplification fell off dramatically after their launch. The project did go live, and it immediately took a 50% alt correction, and that, I think, caused a little bit of sourness in the market. And again, it's back to that thing that we've talked about before, and that is that most of these game projects, if you're not in on IDO or pre-sale, meaning before the project goes live to an exchange or out to a trade, then the likelihood is you're going to see an immediate fall off after the bots have their day. And the way this works is the bots will go out, the pre-sales, the IDOs, the early money will make their profit, the bots get in, they'll sell at the top, and then the project will get crushed. And at that point, you do not want to be on the other side of that landslide, because that is when you're going to see the project fall, and it's absolutely going to bottom out. But that is when you need to start looking at projects, is when they have bottomed out all the way. And if you go look at all these projects in their maybe on their year to date or their lifetime on CoinMarketCap or any other tool you might be using out there, look at their projects after they launch and then how quickly they dropped and corrected. Be on the lookout for those, because that's where it identifies the next winner. So MonkeyBall struggling right now after what was a good opening, but then an immediate fall off. And I think this the community was a little bit burned with the amount of airdrop tokens they landed due to the delay of that project launch. So I think there was a little bit of bad blood in the air for MonkeyBall, and it may not end up being a great brand play for them. So one of those that I would probably hold off on in the long term. Geopoly, another project, if you're getting into these kinds of projects, BitHotel, Geopoly holding in at 67.92. These are not monstrous sentiment scores. These are just in this particular 5 that we're looking at. And then BitHotel holding in at a 64.99 and a 58.72. Probably not a good buy, in my opinion, on BitHotel, but what I'm trying to do here with these projects is to get your head around them. Meaning understanding, remember, when they're not a good buy, it is representing an opportunity for research to occur. That's the time when you start looking at these projects when maybe they're not pumping. And that is the time you can make a decision and say, maybe this is something I want to take a look at in the gaming sector, put a little test in there, let it run and see what happens. Because that's typically the way that I build my, what I call my level 5 portfolios, which is my level 5 risk. It's the ultimate risk I'm willing to take, which is to go to zero. That means if I put $1,000 in something, I'm expecting it to drop to zero. If you're doing those kinds of risk level and risk tolerance portfolios, you're going to win big on some, you're going to lose big on others. The key there is hopefully you're winning big on the ones that are, in more cases, more frequent. And if you've watched our high-risk portfolio videos, you know which ones we've done, and we've won like that. Things like Black Eye Galaxy, Seek. We look at the project like Stars, Mogul, all those, Nabox. There's so many that have outperformed even what I thought they would do. And then there's the dogs that, continue to keep on biting my heels as I've lost money on some of those. So be on the lookout for those. I want to get into some of the details here with this. Let's go to Realy real quickly. No pun, but it's basically, again, it's a cultural metaverse play. Virtual is the future is here kind of theme. This is where I think we'll start to see metaverse starting to evolve. I think this project is very early, and the likelihood of this one maybe moving to the next level, especially on marketplace, could be the angle, much like a Big Time. If you look at how Big Time's, again, Big Time completely different in terms of a game aspect. I think with Realy we see a lot of opportunity here around kind of the overall. But if you look at, if I can get their website to not jump crazy, this is their token economy. So they do have a token, much like many of the projects that do have in-game tokens. They have a treasury model, a landowning and renting model, store operations, meaning retail stores, staking to vote, city events. So it's kind of that virtual economy there. I don't know if any of you guys ever remember, or I'm sure some of you do, Second Life. This has a lot of those elements in there, and it's kind of funny. Second Life is almost, I think, 25 years old. and we're revisiting the metaverse once again. But anyway, really moving along, if you look at their Twitter thread, you can kind of see some of the projects that they've been moving into. So this was the Artifact partnership with Artifact Studios, pioneer a new world in the street culture metaverse, which this is another one that I think we will see some movement on, and that is NFT and gaming fashion. We actually did a video on this, and it's actually, I think, a good potential trend, because we're going to see real life brands start to create NFT products, real life jackets, etc., that will eventually roll out as NFT assets, utility assets inside games and metaverse. So it's very early, but companies and projects like Artifact Studios is a good example of why Nike, of course, did that acquisition. You look further into here, and this is another one. Here is this is a Zolchik's watch company. So again, another potential for what could be happening within these metaverses in terms of transitioning real world retail into metaverse place. And I know a lot of people have a hard time really getting your head around how real world applications are going to function within metaverse. Don't worry about that, because you don't have to know everything around metaverse and how it's going to be realized to understand that this is going to be big. And it's the same thing that happened in the internet. And if you were in the era of 1996 to 2000, you were in a period of time, if you lived in tech, which I did, in that era, you realized what was happening before your eyes. You didn't know how it was going to result into what we know today as Web 2.0, but that's exactly what we're dealing with here. Just to give you guys a refresher and kind of a little slap in the face, in the sense is, here's the MonkeyBall FTX chart. So again, back to what I was talking about, this is the kind of upswing you're going to see, this massive move right here where the bots take it up, and then that big red candle sliding down, and then just nothing but red candle after red candle, a little bit of stabilized, and then a whole lot of nothing for MonkeyBall. So again, trading now at what is $1.37, up from its high, which was right there, if I can get it to the top, $3.80 or 8 cents. So again, project that went out. This is pretty typical of these kind of gaming scenarios. Again, if you're on the backside of that, meaning the pre-money, you're in good shape. You're going to win in most cases on those, unless you hold too long. If you're on the flip side of that and you're trying to buy early, be careful, because unless you can hold that asset for something that's a pent-up demand, you have to be cautious. And let me explain that. If you were buying on a game token, like a MonkeyBall, the likelihood is you're going to see the correction almost immediate. So if you're on the downside and you're saying, listen, I bought at the $3 figure, I'm just going to hold this on out, you're probably going to hold for a year or longer as we see the game start to evolve. The other alternative to that is something like a Gala Games, some of the projects on Gala, or maybe even a Star Atlas, or if you look at what is happening right now with big time studios, is these NFT assets, meaning you're buying an asset that's holding in the game as they release marketplace, which is going to increase value. Those kind of strategies are two different strategies. One is a token strategy that you want to jump on the backside, ride out the little smooth swoop, and then pick it up on the low end and then wait for your pump. The other strategy, let's say, you go back to big time studios, and we did a video on this, is now you've got a potential to go in and get the space NFT, maybe you got the VIP pass, some of those kind of things. Those you can sit there and hold and watch the appreciation start, because it's a limited supply and it is an opportunity for you to get in on these NFT assets kind of ground level, much like Sandbox and what land sales have been doing in Sandbox, if you've been watching the data and some of the videos we've done on that. So big stuff there. Another one that I wanted to touch on was this roadmap for BitHotel. Phase 1, releasing obviously their general fundraising. Their NFT offering came in with NFT airdrops and their community building. And then their phase 3, which is what they're in right now, on platform marketplace, NFT marketplace listing, and the IDO on PancakeSwap. Let me zoom in on that. I think I can. Yeah, that one you can't, because it's one of those websites that freezes. But if you can see this, if you can zoom in right there, and if not, just go over to BitHotel.io right there in the URL and just hit the roadmap and you can kind of follow along. But release the game beta, which is set for phase 4, Q1 This is why I think this one might be interesting because of the game release timing. That's the other thing I want you guys to be aware of is watch the game release timing on these because they will play into token price if there's tokens involved or even in NFT asset prices because if you hold those assets, they're going to drive up as the game fervor starts to really move out. Let's jump over to PlaceWar. I wanted to show you some of the deals they're making. Zoom in on this one right here. So this is a good example of Myrtle and her team really kind of going at it because they're starting to package deals with these guilds. PlaceWar and Unix guild jumped in, so now partnered with one of the largest guilds in the metaverse. Then you have the JRN Gaming. I wonder if that's Journey Gaming. I wonder if that, does anybody know about that? Hit me in the comments if that's Journey. I wonder if that's Journey. Journey Crypto. I don't know if he's doing that or not. But this is a big one as well. I think there's been many that they've shown up here with Unix. And I continue to see, and I'm always watching for these kinds of things where we'll see more and more potentials with projects like this as the partnerships come together. That's a very important phase on all of these projects in terms of these partnerships, because partnerships, believe me, big time. Here's the PlaceWar. This was one of their roadmap graphics. So you can kind of see the game features coming in. Again, NFT system, tank, equipment, tech, pixel building, defenders, back to the owning and understanding how that's coming together. Then you see all their partners, which is some pretty significant with Binance Smart Chain, TK Ventures, X21, which we've talked about before, obviously Polygon, and AC Capital, big ones right there. Q4 mainnet launching, that's where we are right now. Contract auditing for their smart contract trainer program, registration. The Q2 is interesting because that's when they get the PVP launch, the Pixel launch, the NFT bridge. This is going to be interesting if they can pull this off in early Q1, because if that happens, this could continue to see some activity. And then you see the Place token utility, which is, we've talked about this on the video with Myrtle about this, is the utility for, I think she called it Placedonia, but Place token utility, which is kind of their land aspect. So again, all of these different projects like this, these games, these metaverse plays, are usually looking at some sort of angle on NFTs. Those are the areas I want you to pay close attention to when you're doing your investment strategy. Now, I will say, it makes you do a lot of homework, okay? And you know, when we do these kind of market movers, you're going to have to do the homework. It's not just something that we just give to you and say, hey, go out there and, you know, bet on the best horse. No, you need to do your homework, not investment advice, but if you get your homework done and you're willing to jump into these, there are some definite big 10x, 50x, 100x gains that are out there just waiting to be juiced and loved for sure. I want to jump into some of the other aspects here, and that is the guilds that I want you guys to pay attention to. So this was one of the guilds that we highlighted on the show here recently, and this was Unix. This is the deal that they just did right there. And you can kind of see on how their sentiment has been holding for Unix in November, down a little bit, but again, overall, not a bad project if you want to buy into guilds. Here's the next one right here, which is Yield Guild Games. Yield Guild Games. This is one of the ones that I do like. 63.19 on their December sentiment and their amplification at 62.7, which is not bad. That's a good score. And my buy rating on this on CPI is a 6.9. Again, on our buy ratings, when you get a 6.9, it's more research and a hold or trade. But once you hit into 7, that's when it gets very active and what we call a buy. That would be a buy. And this is right on the leverage or edge of where it should be. The other one is a project or a guild called Good Games Guild. Again, this is another one that has been moving and had a little bit of activity. They also have a pretty cool thing here. Remember, they have scholars, 300. I think yield, what was theirs? Yeah, 4,700 right here. Total scholars they have in their guild, so that you understand how a guild works. Let me explain. In many cases, it is an entity, in most cases a DAO, meaning a decentralized autonomous organization, a group of people that have come together to put money into it to help grow this entity. And the way that they're growing it is through acquisition of assets, digital assets. This could be anything from in-game assets, land, virtual assets, or scholars, meaning players, humans that are actually playing the game that they've basically staked like an Axie, and they've staked that group in and they've created a whole scholar roster, and that becomes a revenue engine for them. There's many of these guilds launching. We'll see more and more, especially around some of these big games like Atlas, Star Atlas, and even big time. We'll probably see a lot of guilds starting to develop over there, and that's going to be interesting to watch for sure. Just so you guys remember, before we get to the questions, because make sure I want you to drop your questions in the live chat, because we want to get to those, because there's a lot of games out there that we should be talking about and we need to be focused on. And what I want to do is revisit our Rising Stars blockchain chart that is also sentiment for December. And this was the group. We had Bomb Crypto on this list. In case you missed it, Fate and Arena, which is absolutely has been on fire. And then Soul Chicks was on our list. We also had Walking Dead Empires. This is part of Gala's project and part of the Galaverse when they introduced this. There's PlaceWars again. Spider Tank, another Gala project. Mirandus, another Gala project. Azuki MOBA, and then Cryo War and Battle Hero. Some of these are lower, but as you can kind of see, look where Bomb Crypto and Fate and Arena hold out at 70, 9, and 80 on amplification. Now you're getting into hero level when you get into the 80s on any of these scores. Many of the projects that we look at, like on high cap altcoins, things of that nature, you'll see 80s come up every once in a while. And then once you get into those, that's usually meaning some potential big stuff happening out there. I want to get over to the questions today, because I know you guys have a lot in mind of how gaming and NFTs are going to play out. So we'll jump into some of those and get rolling. The first one, of course, I always have to take is from Famil. Don't forget Omi. Listen, Omi is, that's near and dear to our heart. Omi is a great project that should be on this list. But remember, Omi is actually, I think, going to be a absolute unbelievable performer for 2022, all because of VV. If you don't know what we're talking about, if you're new to this show, I want you to go back and look at the VV. Just search VEVE in our just in our YouTube channel, and you'll find a handful of videos. One where we had an interview with Kyle Wilson, probably one of the most renowned VV influencers, and he understands the project, he understands where it's going, its relationship. Then we had this recent news with Omi and Immutable X, big stuff happening there, lots of fireworks. Be on the lookout. If you're into comics, you need to watch that video because it's a big one. All right, so let's talk about this Master Killer. If anything, I like your YouTube name. That is cool. I thought Metapol was a good YouTube name. I like Master Killer even better. And you're saying you want a list of upcoming game launches? Listen, there's a ton of launch pads out there. That is a great idea for a video. We should probably do a full run out on game launch pads, because there's a handful of them. I would recommend that you take a look at, actually I won't say that. I'm going to give you a video on that. We'll do a full launchpad analysis to give you guys some run-ups on some of these early potentials. Let's go in here with Craig. And what's your current view on Star Atlas? I wasn't so sure after the recent interview. So their CEO is, I think, is a super smart guy. And Atlas is one of those projects that they have a big, big ambition. It could be quite possibly the biggest game in the metaverse. Could be. When you have those kinds of ambitions, much like, it reminds me a little bit of, not the same, but in essence of what the vision is trying to do of Bloktopia. And when you have those kind of very high aspirations, you usually have to have some pretty advanced strategies in place to roll these things out. Now, granted, they have the graphics in place, they've got marketing in place. I think they have a potential. The concern I have with Star Atlas is the roadmap layout for them to get to the end game. Because if it's just going to be a lot of delays because of the next big thing that's going to happen in Star Atlas, that's a no-winner and definitely a no-go and non-starter for me. So I'm kind of with you on that. I'm watching very closely and very patiently. I do own Star Atlas, just full disclosure. Super chat coming in from Edmund Rakipi. And let's see here. Hey, Paul, a lot of this gaming metaverse plays Gala Block Sand Mana. Seems really cheap right now. Thoughts on pricing over the next 2 to 3 years? That's a good question. Are we talking 10 to 30? here's the thing that you have with these projects, and I talk about this so many times on the show, and that is, this is Bitcoin 2013. So if you want to put yourself in Bitcoin back in 2013, just go to the charts if you're not there and look at where Bitcoin was. That's where I feel like the gaming category is. Now, we have a lot of people that watch this show and they're in it for the short haul. And when I say short haul, 30, 60, 90 days, you're looking to make, a 4x, a 5x gain. Nothing wrong with that. Good strategy, one that I think you'll like. But if you are looking for long-term plays, the things you have to watch, just like any upstart innovative technology, is you have to look at the players who are acquiring and the investment capital that is behind them. So I want you to take a look at those kinds of people and projects that are out there. And that includes projects like Star Atlas, like Gala, like Sandbox, like Axie, and Star Mavis. All those kind of projects are going to have long-term horizons, and the potential for those to be 5x, 10x, 50x in 2-3 years is real, because this is not going to slow down, and it's definitely not going to go away. So much like cryptocurrency, I am all in when it comes. You guys should know that. We talk so much about gaming and where Metaverse is going. We do believe in it because we think it is Web3, and I know what happened the last time. We're not going to miss it, for sure. All right, let's go into here. Do you think about Binamon, since they are burning tokens weekly now, could they go to the moon? Binamon was interesting you bring that one up, because Binamon was a token that I put in my high risk portfolio about 30 days ago. It was one of my losers, but it was one that I identified that we use a tool to do this. We use a project called Token Metrics that helps me identify tokens on early movers. Mostly it's the tokenomics that I'm looking at, leads, some additional research, and then I bounce that off of our sentiment. And Binamon showed up fairly well. So I went in and invested in it and lost my butt on it in short term, but I haven't sold it. So it's very possible that we could see a little bit of a run up on Binamon. So it'll be interesting to see here. Another super chat coming in from Lance. Thank you so much. Where is GLZR at the top of the NFT Metaverse token on crazy bullish? Okay, well, okay, I'll let you go ahead and chill a little bit there. Again, some of these projects and some of these movers, we don't track them all, and I wish that we did, in the sense of just understand what's out there, because there's just so much in the space that's happening right now. But if you look at the list of emerging tokens and projects in some of these launch pads, you would be blown away at how many of these projects are out there, for sure. All right, I love how everyone gave up on Bloktopia. I don't know that they did. Bloktopia, I mean, granted, it's struggled with a lot of the projects, but again, it goes back to my point of what I said just a minute ago, and that is, when you have these big overarching, and I think I even said that in the Bloktopia video that we did an analysis on Bloktopia, when you try to, eat the whole tree at one time, it's a very difficult process to roll out any kind of achievement factors, as opposed to, say, projects who are rolling out in stages and just jumping out there going, okay, we're going to do this. Take a little bit of this. We're going to take a little bit of this. I will just reference PlaceWars. They've been able to strategically do that. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to win, but the game is, I'd give it, maybe a B or a B plus right now. That could go away once we see the real full game develop. But when you're in a position like Bloktopia or Star Atlas, another one that I would always be worried about. Another super chat coming in from Mike P. How does a coin get onto different exchanges? How does crypto.com, okay, and Ultra into their exchange? So it's all about, there's two things that really play into it. One is the way, because one of my best friends actually is an individual that onboards tokens for a major exchange. I won't say the exchange he works for, but he onboards tokens over there. And I asked him that question. So how do you make a decision on how to do this? And he goes, we look at tokenomics, we look at team, even though some teams and some projects do get into some of these exchanges, but the big ones, the big exchanges, you're going to have to have a docs team. Most of the time when you're going into, say, a swap or a DEX, decentralized exchanges, those are different. Those are different categories. Almost anybody can jump out a token on Binance Smart Chain and put it onto PancakeSwap, and you're going to be able to trade on it fairly quickly. Most of these projects are taking that route because it is easier. There's a lot of Eastern Bloc development right now in Europe, and then we have a lot of development in Asia. Very little development here in the United States, which surprises me even to this day. We just did a video of that about a game house here in the US. And I think that's a big challenge, is just being able to get the talent. All right, so we've got another super chat coming in. Thank you. So we love you so much too. We love it. All right, you guys, of course, if you have ideas for the show, number one, drop them in the comments if you're catching this after the live stream, because we want to get your feedback on what you really want to dive into. Do you like the Crypto Power Index ratings? Do you like the Diamond Circle drops? Do you like the free giveaways we do? Everybody likes those. Which, by the way, we're doing another free giveaway on our live stream here this week. It's our not Christmas Eve, day before Christmas Eve giveaway on Thursday. So you don't want to miss that one. We're going to have a big show. And we're giving away some money and some digital assets back to our Diamond Circle. Make sure and click the link below so you guys can join. It's free to you. Very easy to join in. And, of course, if you want to reach me, hit me up on Twitter. It's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.